Year-old factory worker Bree Berry is suing her ex-boyfriend, 28-year-old waiter John Hayden Jr., for totaling her car. Bree says John is a con artist.
Yeah, this is case number 26 on the calendar in the matter of Berry versus Hayden Jr. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Berry, Mr. Hayden was your live-in boyfriend until
Yes,
a while back, and according to your complaint, he took your car without permission one day, drove it. You don't know what happened, but he says he fell asleep at the wheel and he totaled your car. You want the value of that car because you say you were forced to purchase another car, and your monthly payments have, of course, increased as a result of purchasing the new car.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayden says that he had an agreement with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
And that he doesn't owe you anything for the new car. So he's going to tell me all about that agreement in a moment, and I am anxiously awaiting to hear the details of it.
Me too.
Good. We'll all wait together. When did you live with Mr. Hayden, Miss Berry?
I lived with him for about 3 months from at the end of December until about the end of February.
Had you known him for a while before he moved in with you?
We used to go to high school together.
What prompted you to move in together?
I was conned into it. John is a very good con artist.
How were you conned into it?
He figured that we could help each other out by, he didn't have anywhere to stay at that time, and he was working and that he could help me with my bills, and that's not how it happened.
So he moved into your apartment?
Yes, ma'am, just like that. Conned his way right in.
When did he take your car and total it?
It was on February 11th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Hayden.
Well, I did have permission to drive the car. I drove the
Your
car.
Honor.
I had my own set of keys. I drove the car on several occasions. And
Okay, tell me about February 11th, sir.
February 11th, I woke up like I normally did and went to my where I have to go.
Just a sec. Oh, listen to me. February 11th, Judge, I woke up at...
Judge, I woke up...
No, look at me. Here.
I woke up around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
And you got out of bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
I don't want to hear you yet. He's talking. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You got out of?
I got out of bed.
And who was in bed with you? Look at me. Eyes.
The plaintiff.
Are you sure? Don't speak. Remember what day of the week it was, sir?
It was probably around the end of the week.
Are you sure about that?
As sure as I can be.
What do you mean, as sure as you can be? Because, Mr. Hayden, I assume you work, right?
I did work until probably 2 weeks ago.
Fine. You were working on February 11th because
Yes.
you started to say to me before, I got up my usual time and I was going to do usual things, so I assume you got up 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning because you were going to...
To my rehabilitation.
What kind of rehabilitation, sir? Is not an answer.
Well, I'd rather not go into it.
Well, you have to tell me, sir, what you were doing, because I'm going to ask you specific questions, and I don't give a rat's behind what you prefer not to go into. Put your hand down.
I was going to get my treatment for my methadone.
Okay, so you were going to your methadone program.
Yes.
I've heard that before, sir. You know, I've been a judge for a long time. You have a morning methadone program?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And where had you been the night before, sir?
At home.
All night?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got up 6 or 7 o'clock to go and get your methadone at the program. And you were, in fact, working. So where were you working?
At Uno's Pizzeria on Beachmont Avenue.
What time do they open?
Around 11 o'clock.
What time do you do at your methadone program?
Anywhere between 6 and...
Look at my eyes.
10.
So what were you doing getting up at 6 o'clock, sir, when you didn't have to be at the pizza place until 11?
Because sometimes I go in early so I can get a few extra hours in.
Good. So you were being conscientious.
Yes, I worked 3 doubles a week plus the other days that I worked. I worked 6 days a week. 3 of them were doubles and 3 of them were regular days.
All right. So you got up between 6 and 7. And you had your own set of keys to the car. You got into the car. And what happened, Mr. Hayden?
I was traveling on my way to the clinic, and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Well, according to you, you'd been home the whole night before. Well, how come you fell asleep at the wheel?
Well, not real sure. I've had problems in the past with driving, falling asleep.
How many times in the past have you had problems driving?
Well, I've never actually wrecked from it, but, you know, I've had several close calls.
And when was that?
Years past.
Not when you were with Miss Berry?
No.
Did you ever tell Miss Berry before she gave you permission to use the car according to you and give you your own set of keys to the car that you've had near misses with falling asleep at the wheel?
I'm sure she was aware.
No, I didn't ask you that question, Mr. Hayden. And I want you to trust me, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day. Did you ever tell her that you had near misses of falling asleep at the wheel of a car?
I'm not sure.
Good, that's an answer. Did he ever tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Of course not. Now, was this Miss Berry's only means of transportation, or did she have a garage full of cars?
She had 2 vehicles.
Tell me about the 2 vehicles that she had.
One was a Taurus and the Civic.
And which car were you driving?
The Civic.
Is that the car you were driving, the Taurus?
No, ma'am. I had a 95 Taurus that had been broken down for a couple months. My only means of transportation was the Honda Civic.
Okay. Miss Berry, tell me about the 10th of February, which was the day before this incident happened.
The 10th of February, ma'am, I was getting tired of being in this little relationship with John because he wasn't working like he said he was. And I had asked him that, you know, pretty soon you need to find somewhere to go. You need to, you know, go live off somebody else. So he had called me from work and asked me to come home so that we could talk about it. And when I got home, about 11 or 12, and John was already drunk and nodding out, because that's one thing that I couldn't stand about him, is that he would always nod out, and he's burnt my furniture on the floor. So anyways, he slept on the couch that night. I slept in the bed. I woke up the next morning. My keys are gone. I always leave my purse next to my bed. I always take my purse everywhere I go. The keys were gone. I got a phone call about 11 from an officer stating that John Hayden was in the hospital, that he had totaled my car. So I called down to the hospital, and John just acted like everything would be all right, that he totaled my car.
So what you're saying is he had driven your car before. There's no question about that. Is that right?
Yes, but he did not have an extra set of keys.
But he had driven your car before, with your permission.
Not with my permission. I would get up in the morning and he would take it.
Well, then what you have to do is you change the locks and you put him out of your house.
That's too much.
Shh. You change the locks, you put him out of your house if he's stealing your car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
And later today,
For her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
She said she forgot.
Right, but 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas.
Maybe she's just lazy.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Now there is something that you're going to tell me that would suggest that you had an agreement with her with regard to a new car. So why don't you tell me about that?
After the car was totaled, we agreed that if she was able to get a new car, which she had no job except for about 2 or 3 weeks.
That's a lie.
So
it doesn't matter if I worked or not.
Miss Berry, what part of don't speak don't you understand?
I'm sorry.
Good.
When you're on welfare, you can barely...
Oh, my...
I'm not asking you what she did. I'm asking you what your agreement was.
You can barely make your rent anyway. If it wasn't for me co-signing, she could have never got the car to begin with.
My mama...
Miss Berry, if you open your mouth again, I'm going to dismiss your claim.
Okay.
You don't want that, do you?
No.
And I'm serious, you know. I don't say things and then take it back. Do you understand?
I understand.
Well, I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Berry, sir, with regard to your co-signing a loan for her.
I said, you put down the money you have as a down payment, and then I'll put down what I have, and if they let it go through with both of us being, with me being the co-signer, then you will have your car, and you will go from there.
Did she own the Civic free and clear?
I do not know.
As far as you know, she wasn't making payments because according to you, Miss Berry was on welfare. She could hardly make the rent.
Exactly.
So she wasn't making car payments. So what you're telling me is she took whatever little money she had, and you put in money. And how much money did you put in?
Probably $100.
And you put in $100, and then you co-signed a loan for her so that she could buy a new used car.
Yes.
And how much was the loan for?
About $8,000.
So what you're telling me is because you totaled her car, you obligated her to pay $8,000 for a vehicle to do whatever she had to do with it. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Then tell me what you're telling me, Mr. Hayden. I'm listening.
I would have been more than happy to stay there with her and be, you know, and help her make her car payments, but she cheated on me. When I called her before I came home because I couldn't get a hold of her one day, and she said, well, an ex-boyfriend of mine spent the night tonight, and I don't want you to come here trying to cause any problems. Granted, this is where I was living, paying bills, you know, giving her money. I make about $500 or $600 a week, and, you know, I just would give her money.
If you had, sir, $500 or $600 a week, why don't you get your own car?
Because I don't have a license.
So, Mr. Hayden, so you took her car and drove her car without a license?
I didn't know that at the time. I have an $80 reinstatement fee to pay, which I'm going through now.
Mr. Hayden, you got more stories than Damon Runyon. The fact that you tell me that I gave her $100 towards the car, did he give you $100 towards the car? No, of course he didn't.
Oh, you're right.
Of course he didn't.
I had to pay for...
Shh. What year car was this?
A 93.
Do you have the blue book value of it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Would you like to see all the evidence or just that?
I'd like to see whatever you have, Miss Berry.
And I don't live in Section 8.
You move people in and out all the time.
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, this looks like some bad accident. What did you hit?
A telephone pole. And, you know, she didn't call to see if I was okay. She called to see if her car was okay.
That should have told you something,
Yeah,
Mr.
it
Hayden.
did.
Should have.
Yeah, she's self-centered, and karma will get her.
Car was more important than you were.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the way it's always been with, you know, that's what her psychiatrist tells her.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today.
So you look at that face and you see what?
I see charming, sweet, lovely Amanda.
But when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Mr. Hayden, let me tell you something. I don't find necessarily that the plaintiff's behavior is appropriate. I am assuming that you are now involved with somebody else?
Yes, ma'am. I was drug use.
No, listen to me. I assume at least in part it was because of somebody else. Part of it may be because of his continued drug use, according to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever. That is not a testament to your good judgment.
It's a bad judgment I made.
No, very bad. And I don't care whether you're exercising bad judgment if you're the only one involved, but you have a 5-year-old child. And you don't move somebody into your house for 1 hour who you claim is getting his methadone, but using in addition to that.
That's why I got rid of him.
Just a second. That's not true, madam, because according to you, after he came out of the hospital, you allowed him to move back into your home for a month. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old. You understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
More than her.
Okay.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
That may be, sir, but you still owe her $2,500 for the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500.
Parties are excused.
Step out.
You may step
Bird,
out.
he can have his water later, please.
John Hayden is a good con artist.
I could really care less.
Anybody that John owes money to,
She's wrong.
you should take him on the Judge Judy show
Bree's a liar.
so you can get your money also.
This is over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McGinnis versus Carter. Step forward, please.
Restaurant owner Michael McGinnis is suing his former employee, 20-year-old student Amanda Carter, for stealing 180 sodas.
Mr. McGinnis, you own a restaurant, and the defendant was an employee of yours. She worked as a waitress. Your complaint is rather unique, sir. It is your claim that while she was employed by you, when she wrote out checks, she did not charge customers for sodas. According to you, based upon your calculations, approximately 180 sodas were not charged because you believe that it's impossible for people to have ordered that many meals without ordering a drink. And therefore, you claim that Miss Carter stole from you and you want her to reimburse you in the amount of $315, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you start to work for Mr. McGinnis, Miss Carter?
The beginning of December.
And how long did you work for him?
I worked for him for 4 months.
What kind of restaurant is it?
It's a sports bar.
Is this your first job as a waitress?
No, it's not.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
All right. So, Mr. McGinnis, tell me what makes you think that Miss Carter stole from you.
My wife and I, Your Honor, went to a food show. We returned from the food show, and my wife checked receipts. And for her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
Okay.
So the day before that, there were no drinks charged that day. But our policy is all meals, you charge drinks. I asked Amanda, why were there no drinks charged on the meals? And her reply was, I forgot.
She forgot to charge them.
She forgot to charge them.
Okay.
But the only thing that the server can get to themselves are sodas, chips and salsa. Everything else they have to order through the screen. But I just can't believe, Your Honor, that individuals are choking down cheeseburgers and nachos and burritos without drinking anything.
Well, she already told you. She said she forgot.
She forgot to charge.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said she forgot.
Right. But 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home. She didn't forget to pick up her check.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas, time after time.
When you do a check, how is the bill generated?
It's generated without the drink.
So the cost of the food itself comes off a computer.
Yes.
And then the server has to take an additional step before they add up the bill and add on 4 drinks,
Yes.
and then you total it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So she said to you, I forgot.
Yes.
And she's just lazy. Well, what do you think she was doing? You think she was serving these drinks and drinking them all herself?
No, Your Honor. I believe that she was serving the drinks and possibly telling the patron that she was buying the drinks for them in order to get a better tip.
That's a possibility. It's also a possibility she forgot, right?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
It's also, well, it's a possibility. It's just as possible as the scenario that you proposed, that she told all these 18 people on one day, I'm not charging you for drinks, you can add it to my tip, right?
Yes.
It's just as possible as that. You would prefer that I believe she's a thief.
Yes, I believe so.
So you look at that face and you see why?
I see charming, sweet, lovely Amanda, very personable.
No, I'm asking you, but when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Well, not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
You didn't charge for the drinks, Amanda. How come you didn't charge for the drinks?
I didn't charge for the drinks because they simply weren't ordered. The bar area is first when you come into the restaurant, and many people came into the bar and bought their beer and their mixed drinks and such and purchased them from the bartenders and then made their way into the dining area where there are TVs where people like to come in and watch sports.
All right, but it's also possible, Amanda, that occasionally you let slip by.
Oh, yeah,
certain
definitely.
Drinks and didn't put it on the bill, right?
Yeah.
So that's a possibility.
Very big possibility, yes.
Do you ever tell people, listen, I'm not going to charge you for the sodas, so you could add it to my tip?
No, I've never done that.
Now, I can understand. You said to me, Amanda served those drinks, and she got the money for it and pocketed the money, and therefore she's a thief. But you're not saying that. You're saying that you choose to believe that instead of being forgetful, stupid, you know, she's a criminal, a thief. She stole money from you. And I don't buy that, Mr. McGinnis. I think that that's a very nasty thing to think about. What is? Are you on medication?
Am I on my medication?
Are you on any medication, sir? I'm wondering why you've got this grin on your face that seemed plastered onto your face. Case is dismissed, that's all.
6-year-old child care provider Laura Burton is suing her ex-husband, 29-year-old machinist Donald Allen, for the return of her son's belongings. Donald is countersuing for car payments and insurance costs.
It's case number 48 on the calendar in the matter of Burton versus Allen. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Miss Burton, when were you and Mr. Allen married?
We got married in April of 2001.
And at the time you were married, you had a child, a boy. Is that right?
I already had him, yes.
From a previous marriage or relationship?
Relationship, yes, ma'am.
And how old was that child when you married Mr. Allen?
9 months.
And where is the father of that child?
He lives in the state of California. At the time, he lived in the state of Utah with me.
Does he support the child? Does he support the child?
Right now, no.
Last year, did he support the child?
Yes.
The year before?
Yes.
And the year before?
Yes.
And how much support was he sending for the child?
He paid $167 a month.
So not much.
Not much.
Not enough to support the child.
No, ma'am.
When you married Mr. Allen, were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
Continually employed?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was watching the baby?
The biological father was watching him.
And that remained throughout your marriage to Mr. Allen, that the biological father was watching the baby
No,
while
we
you were
had,
working?
at the point when me and Mr. Allen got married, I had put him in daycare.
And you continued to be employed?
There were points that I did become unemployed.
Large stretches of time?
No, maybe the longest stretch were 6 months.
And during that 6-month period, Mr. Allen supported the household?
Yes.
Supported you and your son?
Yes.
Okay. When were you married, Mr. Allen?
April 25th, 1998.
To her?
Yeah.
Why did she say April 2001?
I don't know. My son was born in 97, so.
I mean the baby?
Yeah, the baby.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that you made a mistake. You were
Yes,
married
ma'am.
in 1998.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you separate?
It was the end of August, September of 2002.
And when were you divorced?
October 4th, 2002.
Do you have any children together?
No.
So this is what this case is about. Miss Burton is suing you for the return and or value of property, the child's property, child's clothes, games, sporting equipment, etc., etc. That was at your house. Because even after the divorce, you were exercising visitation with him. You coached his ball league,
Up until problems happened. So.
whatever it was, but you were involved with him, so you kept some things at your house. Did he sleep at your house
Yes,
occasionally
Your Honor.
during visitation?
He actually lived with us from March until July
March of what year?
2003.
Why was that?
His mother was unable to find a place to live.
For that 4 months he lived with Mr.
That is
Allen.
incorrect, Your Honor.
How long did he live with Mr. Allen?
Until May.
So he lived with Mr. Allen for 2 months,
Yes, ma'am.
according to you. But since the separation, since you were living together, Mr. Allen has had regular contact with the boy. What's
Yes,
his
ma'am.
name?
His name is Tyler.
And I would assume that Tyler is attached to Mr. Allen.
In a way.
Okay. And your lawsuit wants Mr. Allen to return all of these things. Mr. Allen says, I bought them, and they're staying in my house. I also gather from reading your complaint and his answer that you have decided it's no longer appropriate for Tyler to spend time with Mr. Allen.
It's become unhealthy.
It's become unhealthy because why?
The constant bickering between Mr. Allen and I had told him that it needed to stop. It was becoming unhealthy for everyone in the situation. I gave him a year that I continuously said, we cannot be bickering. We need to stop. Something needs to change.
Bickering about what?
Just little things, mainly my son. He was trying to run my household for me. And
Who is this person?
this is my current husband, Brian.
When were you married?
We got married in November of 2003.
Tyler is 7 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
And what you're telling me, Miss Burton, is that you have decided to cut off the only constant male relationship in your son's life because you couldn't get along with Mr. Allen.
Not only that I couldn't get along with Mr. Allen, but my son is fearful of this man.
I'm not interested in whether you say your son is fearful. I don't believe it. I don't believe if your son is fearful of him, you let him stay there for 2 months while you were trying to find the new place to live. That's baloney. Don't believe it. Not for a second. Anyway, she stopped all contact. Is that right?
Yes, she did.
And you have this property that you purchased.
Yes. Can I
That's-
explain something real quick?
Go ahead.
When we were divorced, we agreed to split his stuff for her home and our home. Everything she bought stayed at her house. Everything we bought stayed at our house. And after she got pregnant the first time, she claims that I was going to let her have the baby clothes or use the baby clothes that I got in the divorce that she said I could have.
What do you mean after she became pregnant the first time? What does that
Well,
mean?
the first time, because she had a miscarriage about a year ago.
That's with her present husband?
No,
With you?
no.
With who?
Boyfriend at the time, or...
Okay, go ahead.
And then she asked for the clothes when she became pregnant now. And I told her no. And it came to the point where I've done so much.
Mr.
of
Allen,
having
you
to-
don't have to explain it to me any further. Mrs. Burton, I don't know how to put this to you. You have one child, you're expecting another. You've got a new husband. Before this new husband, you had a boyfriend with whom you were intimate and got pregnant. I mean, so your life has been up and down, and before that, you had the father of your 7-year-old who you weren't married to. So the only constant that your son has known in 7 years has been this man. When you are a parent, you are not supposed to be a selfish baby.
Ma'am,
I'm speaking. Now, unfortunately, the law does not permit Mr. Allen, who is not related to this child by blood, to seek visitation with him in most jurisdictions. It doesn't mean that he can't sue for custody of this child, because anybody can sue for custody of a child if they believe that the biological parent has so abused or neglected that child as to make it dangerous, emotionally and or physically, for the child to live with that parent. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means in most jurisdictions he cannot file for visitation, but if you become a worse mother than I believe that you are, he can file for custody. It is the wrong thing to do to cut off for your son a relationship with this man, which is the only constant he has known for 7 years because of your moving around.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I was threatened. I mean, he threatened me. You know, if I didn't go back with him, he would.
Fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry,
She's on a fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry, are you under the influence of any drug or alcohol at this moment?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Laura Burton says ex-husband Donald Allen owes for the return of her son's belongings. Donald claims Laura owes for car payments.
Now, not only aren't you getting the stuff back, but I'm telling you that you better watch your back, because should you do anything that places this child in either physical or emotional damage, he's going to be there.
Ma'am.
And while you may not consent to visitation because you got your nose out of whack, because I believe what he says when he says, she said to me, I'm going to lay down the rules. If you want to see him, I'm going to tell you what the rules are. That sounds like something you would say. And what you're doing is not considering the best interests of your child. And when you don't do that, you're not being a good parent. You're not getting the property back. He bought it for his stepson to stay at his house. Unfortunately, when the marriage was terminated, so was the relationship, the legal relationship of stepchild, step-parent. That you know.
I know.
That you know. And there were other things, Mr. Allen, that you could have done.
I know.
During the marriage, you could have discussed adopting him. That was a possibility. I don't know whether his biological father would have consented to that or not. The law doesn't keep up with the dynamics of our new world. And our new world is that sometimes children become very attached to their step-parents, and it's very unfair for the biological parent to use that as a sword. It's clear to me that there was a time when Mrs. Burton was very, very happy to have you fill in for her son to live with you for either 2 months or 4 months while you were in between residences. That was convenient. It no longer is convenient. I'm sorry. You don't get anything back. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's kind of upsetting. All my son wanted was his personal belongings that are there now.
So many things are put into this little boy's head, like his daddy's abandoned him.
He's the victim. I mean, I have to go home and disappoint him again.
We were best friends. There was no other way around it. Best friends with each other. We did everything together.
I'm thinking of the best interest of my child.
I love you no matter what happens or what anybody says. Your daddy loves you.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Aon Orozco versus Roseberry. Step forward, please.
Retail worker Rosalina Aon Orozco is suing her ex-boyfriend, Assistant Construction Superintendent Louis Roseberry, for slashing the top of her convertible. Louis denies the charge and claims it was probably one of her other boyfriends.
Mr. Roscoe, it is your claim that the defendant, who used to be your boyfriend, slashed the top of your convertible because he was angry with you, I guess, for breaking up with him. And that was when?
August 25th of '02.
Mr. Roseberry says that he didn't cause that damage. Where have you been for the last year and a half?
Back and forth. We broke up, and then we'd get back together, and we'd break up again.
So is what you're telling me, after he slashed your car in August of 2002, you got back together again?
About a month.
About a month later?
A month later.
And how long were you together?
For like 13 months.
And while you were together for the 13 months, what did you do with your convertible top?
Well, he damaged my car August the 25th, so I fixed it a month later, and that's when I got with him.
And you were together after that for 13 months?
Oh, no. For 3 months.
You were back together for 3 months?
After that.
Did he live with you? Or did you live with him?
No.
Well, when you mean you were back...
lived with me.
Shh. What do you mean you were back together again?
We went back together because he promised and that he'd fix my top, that he was sorry, that he had some kind of issues, that he was going to the anger management classes, and that he was going to get help.
Fine. So that didn't work out after 3 months, and you broke up again.
In December, and that was it. I didn't go back. But I was threatened. I mean, he threatened me. You know, if I didn't go back with him, he would...
fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry.
She's on a fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry, are you under the influence of any drug or alcohol at this moment? I'm asking you a question.
No, I'm not.
And if you're not, try to maintain a certain amount of decorum because you're in a court. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. You can drink later. What I don't understand, Mr. Roscoe, is you had a fight with him. According to you, he damaged your car. You went back together. You went out with him. You slept with him. You shared a bed with him. You shared a life with him for 3 months, 4 months, however long it was. According to you, it was August that he did this. A month later, you went back with him. September, October, November, December. So you're back together for 4 months. So what are you bothering the courts for now?
Well, I want him to pay me because he did the damage to my car, and I had to ask my sister for the money to pay for the car. I mean,
how long ago?
When I got it fixed.
When was that?
September.
Show me.
You know, I'm so sorry, Your Honor. It was of '03.
You gotta get your time straight, Mr. Roscoe.
Hang on 1 second. It was August 24th of '03 when he damaged the car, and then a month later is when I went back with him. I mean, I just want him to pay the damage of...
Just a second.
I want him to pay because I seen him do it, and he threatened me, and I broke up with him. We were fighting a night before this incident. We were fighting, arguing from like 7 p.m. to 1 in the morning. I just didn't take his calls anymore. He called me the next day, and he said, okay, fine, if you don't want to be friends, fine, just call me, let me know. So I called him, and I said, you know what, I don't think that this is healthy. We need to not be together. I don't want to have anything to do with you, not even friends.
Perfect. Then you should have sued him the next day. Did you report him to the police?
The day that he did the damages, yes. There was
Let me
a
see the police report. I'd like to see it, please.
I called the police office.
I'd like to see the police report. Don't speak. Just show me the police report.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rosalina Aon Orozco says her ex-boyfriend, Louis Roseberry, slashed her convertible roof. Louis says Rosalina is delusional.
Okay.
Your Honor, can I share something, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, this girl is on a good one. She's hallucinating.
Listen to me.
Here hallucinating.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Just stick to her convertible top.
Okay, well, the convertible top I didn't slash. I didn't have nothing to do with that. As far as I know, she had 6 other boyfriends or something that are probably mad at her for the same reason I was mad at her.
Why were you mad at her, sir?
Because she's lying. She just constantly lies.
So what'd you get back together with her for 4 months? Look at me. Look at me. Tell me why.
'Cause I like to play around.
So you don't care if she's of good moral character or bad moral character or wrapped too tight or whatever?
She has no morals.
And that didn't bother you?
Well, it did. I have a daughter, you know, that I'm raising, and she...
You're raising a child?
Oh, yeah. I am.
Just a minute. You're raising
She's
a child?
an angel. She's a perfect angel.
You're raising a child yourself?
No, I have help.
Whose help? Who's helping?
The mothers.
What?
The mothers.
Their mothers? You mean you have one child who have several mothers?
No. My daughter's mom. And her family and my family.
Do you live with your daughter's mother?
No.
Who does your daughter live with?
We're 50-50 with our child. So she's half with me and half with mom. We don't fight or nothing.
That's
wonderful.
Different. That's wonderful. Mr. Roscoe, get to the convertible top, please, and get there fast. You had a fight. You had a fight the day before.
The next day, he called me and said, fine, if you don't want to be friends, fine, just call me and let me know. So I called him and I said, you know what, this relationship's not healthy. You need help, and no, I don't want to be friends. I want to have nothing to do with you. So I don't remember if he hung up on me or he said, I'm on my way. Either way, I called him numerous of times, but he wouldn't answer the phone.
What'd you call him for?
To tell him not to come to my house.
Just stalk me.
Just a second. You called him, you told him you didn't want to have anything to do with him.
Exactly.
Well, he sounded sincere.
And he hung up the phone. You already told him not to have anything to do with him. And then, according to you, you kept calling him? I don't understand why you kept calling him.
Because he hung up the phone, and I knew he would show up at the house because he's done it before. He's tried to break in the house.
Love songs on my pager?
He's tried to break in the house before.
I'm not interested in that. Well, I don't understand why, if you told me you didn't want to hear from him anymore, you kept calling him on his cell phone.
Because I said, I don't want us to be friends. Nothing. Zero. And then he hung up on me, so I called him because I suspected he was going to show up at the house, and that's exactly what he did. He showed up at the house, he knocked at my window, and he said, come outside, let's talk. And I said, no, I'm not going outside. Please leave. My sister is here. So he kept knocking on the window, and then I said, you know, leave or I'm going to call the cops. And that's when he got really mad, and he said, come outside, I'm going to you up. Excuse me. And I said, no, I'm not. And so I picked up the phone and to call the cops. And I said, you know what, I'm calling the cops, and I'm on the phone with them. And he said, come outside because I'm going to you up and I'm going to your car. So I was on the phone with the police, and I said, you know, my ex-boyfriend's here, and he is outside. He wants to come in the house. Then I looked out the window.
No, I looked out the window. Boyfriends or something.
No.
So blame this one on me.
No, because Your Honor.
What don't you understand? Am I looking at you?
I'm trying to speak mine.
No. I didn't ask you anything.
All right.
I looked out the window, and I seen him. He walked to my car. It was parked in the driveway, and he started slashing my top.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now I want to go forward again.
This guy has issues.
Okay? Now I want to go forward to when you got back together again.
It's going to be crying.
Why? Is this another threat? Is this another threat?
Making up stories. All kinds.
Don't
This girl's a storyteller.
No.
Like, for real. Damn. Storytelling.
Louis, you know you're lying, so don't come up here and lie.
Your case, Mr. Roscoe, is dismissed. Because when I tell you that you have the absolute right to come into a court, even if you come in late, to file a case, even after you've condoned, as far as I'm concerned, by living with him, staying with him, sleeping with him, touching him, feeling him, letting him touch you for 4 months, you've condoned this slashing incident after it happens, but you still have the right to come in and tell a story. You do not have the right, as far as I'm concerned, to disrespect this court by treating this court as if it was a talk show. Do I make myself clear? Good. Your case is dismissed. Out.
Is suing fellow motorist, advertising strategist Anthony Nico Van Prague for damaging her car in a fit of road rage. Nico is countersuing, claiming Cindy shoved him off his motorcycle.
Yeah, this is case number 20 on the calendar in the matter of Sullivan versus Van Prague. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
I have a claim, Officer Byrd, and I have a counterclaim. And these two people were involved in an incident of road rage. Each one of them got a little out of hand. So Miss Sullivan is suing the defendant for damage she says he did to her car when he kicked her car with a boot, I assume, that boot. And then for having her falsely arrested for assault. Mr. Van Prague says she did in fact assault him. He is suing her for that. And he's also suing her for damage she did to his motorcycle. When she pushed him off the motorcycle, he lost control of it and it was damaged. They're going to try to explain to me by the use of these charts why each of them was right. You were driving your car, Miss Sullivan. You were coming from where? Show me.
I was coming from here and was stopped at the stoplight there.
Stopped at a stoplight. And then according to what I sort of put together in your complaint, you got a phone call.
Yes.
While you were stopped at the stoplight.
Correct.
And that phone call said that somebody you knew was taken to the hospital. You had to change direction.
Correct. Later on down the road.
Now, show me where you had to go after you got this phone call.
The phone call was complete before I moved my car. The light was red. I was in this lane. I was going to have to be in number 2 lane later down the road because I did not want to get on the freeway. I wanted to go straight to the hospital. There's quite a bit of traffic, so I knew it was going to take me quite a while to get over, so I put my turn signal on. You have to keep this clear, and there was congestion all over, so when the light turned green, there was one other car in front of me. It proceeded through when it was safe and could clear the intersection. I slowly started to go through. I accelerated when I see I could make it through the intersection. Just as I entered the intersection, I flashed, went by my driver's side, and then cut in front of me, right about here where the median is.
Okay. So what did you do?
I flashed my lights at him, kind of like to say...
Just a minute.
Yes?
He passed you.
Correct.
Safely passed you. Didn't hit you.
Correct.
And you could have just kept on going and meandered over to the right.
Correct.
But you chose to flash your brights at him.
Correct.
In an act of road rage.
If you want to interpret that way?
Well, that's what it is.
Okay.
You flashed your lights on, hoping to annoy him, because he, according to you, went around you too fast and cut in front of you.
There is not a lane of traffic where he passed me.
Yeah. What happened next?
Well, I proceeded, someone let me in, so after I made it through the intersection, I made it into the number 2 lane. Good. Traffic was stopped. My car wasn't completely in the number 2 lane. It was kind of like at an angle, but I was completely in the number 2 lane.
Okay, what happened next?
Traffic was stopped. I had an SUV next to me. I saw the headlight of the gentleman's motorcycle come out from behind the SUV, so I assumed he was going to go between the two of us, as many motorcycles do. And then I heard and felt something hit my car. Mm-hmm. I immediately got out because I figured he hit my car trying to go between us. And I said, "What the hell are you doing?"
You didn't say hell.
Yes, I said hell.
No, it's not even what you say here, you said to him. What are you doing? Okay, you said, what are you doing?
Well, I didn't say I used profanity, as we both did. He started yelling at me, saying I tried to kill him. He said he kicked my car to get my attention. Mm-hmm. And that he yelled that I tried to kill him. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, you're the one that did an evasive move in traffic through the intersection and cutting in front of me. You're the one that could have caused hurt. Okay? So words continued to go, just yelling back and forth. All I could see was his eyes and his mouth. He had a helmet on. And I saw something in his eye, and his whole body in the motorcycle came forward. And I just had a split reaction to defend myself. I put my hands out in front of me, extended my arms, and
you pushed
backed
him.
up. Correct.
Pushed him.
Correct.
Okay, and what happened when you pushed him?
He jumped off the bike.
Okay.
As I'm backing away, he went to lay the bike down. He had his hand on the handle of the grip, and as he laid it down, it kind of spun a little bit. It revved up. I saw the back tire turn. It made contact with the ground. The bike rotated once, twice. He reached back, and I guess it's the throttle or whatever, and stopped from revving. He started jumping around, yelling and screaming, and I continued to proceed to my car, backing up, got into my car. He yelled about calling the police. I said, go right ahead, and I'm going to. I wanted to leave the scene because I felt unsafe. I didn't know what he was going to do.
Well, Sullivan, why did you get out of your car in the first place?
It's just reaction. I thought he hit my car. It was an accident. We need to get out and exchange information. I didn't know he did it aggressively. Well,
once you realized what it was, why didn't you quickly get back into your car instead of standing out there in the street with traffic all around you, screaming and yelling at him?
I don't know. I guess I wanted him to hear my side. He was saying I tried to kill him. I said, no, I didn't. You're the one that did something evasive and illegal.
Now, at some point, you say that police arrived and you told them your side of the story. You told them your side of the story. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. But then the next day, you went to the police station.
Correct.
To file a supplementary report.
Correct.
Why?
Because when I came out, we had first looked, it was dark. They tried to look at the flashlight, and they couldn't see the dent in my car. You could see like the outline of a foot on each side. So when I came out the next morning, sun out, you could see the dent. So I went back to the police station just so they could put that in record that there was damage to my car.
All right. Can I see the initial police reports, please?
I have all the supplementals attached.
When were you arrested for assault?
I wasn't arrested. I was charged.
Charged?
Mm-hmm. I received it in mid-April.
Good. Can I see it, please? It says that you did willfully and unlawfully use force upon a person, to wit, Anthony Von Prague. You did do that.
To protect myself, yes.
Well, I haven't heard protecting yourself. He didn't put his hands on you.
He had a 600-pound motorcycle that himself and the motorcycle moved towards me.
You say in your initial report to the police, you don't say that he lunged forward with his motorcycle. What you say is she got out of the car, she saw Von Prague. It's at one point she thought she saw Von Prague and his motorcycle lunge toward her. Out of instinct and self-defense, she put her hands out and pushed Von Prague on his right side, okay? So you don't say that he moved the motorcycle. You say to the police, you thought he moved the motorcycle.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't gotten to him yet.
I understand.
I haven't gotten to him yet. I'm just telling you that I think that your behavior that day was stupid.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And what do you do when you come in contact with a nut?
The smart thing to do would be just to proceed in the opposite direction. Yes, Your Honor. So I knocked on her car once.
No, I'm not finished with my...
Okay. I'm sorry.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cindy Sullivan says fellow motorist Nico Van Prague kicked her car. Nico claims Cindy assaulted him.
Now, We're going to hear from you.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, Your Honor, I was proceeding in the number 1 lane here with my motorcycle. The defendant was trying to cross over into the number 3 lane, which is the northbound lane getting onto the freeway here, and she had blocked traffic essentially in all 3 lanes at this point. Her car, the majority of her car was in lane number 2, but the rear of her car was still sticking into lane number 1. I proceeded around the rear of her vehicle, opposite of her path to travel. There was about at least half the lane exposed there, and I continued on. The next thing I know, both my mirrors are filled with lights, and I look at my mirrors and I see a vehicle coming up about twice my speed, straddling the center line. So this vehicle had now gone in, come back into the number 1 lane and number.
वेलकम टू माय फर्स्ट व्लॉग ऑन यूट्यूब। दोस्तों ये हमारा फर्स्ट व्लॉग है जो हम यूट्यूब पर बना रहे हैं। हम घर सोए हुए थे, हमें अचानक से ख्याल आया कि मामू के घर शादी है, क्यों ना एडवांस में चले जाएं 3-4 दिन, उधर काम भी करवाएंगे और एंजॉय भी करेंगे। अभी मजा आएगा ना वीडियो किया दोस्तों, मोटरसाइकिल खींचा और हमने सोचा कि व्लॉग भी बनाते जाएंगे, अपनी आवाम को आज ऐसी चीज़ें दिखाएंगे कि शायद उन्होंने कभी नहीं देखी होंगी। तो दोस्तों अब क्या करेंगे, हम व्लॉग बनाएंगे, आपको घुमाएंगे फिराएंगे, आपको हर चीज़ दिखाएंगे अच्छी कि हमारे सिटी में क्या क्या है। तो दोस्तों अभी हम आ चुके हैं मोटरसाइकिल पर, रोड पर, और ये जो आप सरसब्ज देख रहे हैं साइड पे, जो ये क्या चीज़ें हैं दोस्तों, ये है अनारों का बाग। ये अनार देखकर दिल में ऐसे बम्प फूटते हैं, मैं क्या बताऊं आपको। इतनी खुशी मुझे जैसे वीडियो में बम्प फूटा, मुझे लग रहा है आपके दिल में भी ऐसे बम्प फट रहे हैं अनारों का बाग देखकर। अभी सामने आप देखेंगे एक प्यारा सा जो कोठीनुमा बना हुआ है। आप मुझे ये बताएंगे कमेंट में कि ये क्या चीज़ है। दोस्तों ये देखें, ये बहुत ही खूबसूरत सी एक बिल्डिंग बनी हुई है। आप लोग कमेंट में बताएं कि दोस्तों ये क्या चीज़ है। आप जिसने भी सही बताया, मैं उसको यार इंशाल्लाह अपनी वीडियो में नेक्स्ट से मेंशन करूँगा कि किसने राइट बताया मुझे। ये बहुत ही प्यारी और ख़ूबसूरत सी जगह बनी हुई है, कसम से इसे देख के दिल खुश हो जाता है। दिल करता है यहाँ रुक के 2-4 सेल्फियाँ लूँ, पर मैं बहुत गर्मी में तपा हुआ हूँ, तो मेरा दिल कर रहा है मैं कुछ ठंडा पीऊँ, गन्ने का जूस या कुछ मिल्क शेक या कुछ ठंडा मतीरा खाऊँ, पर बहुत जल्दी में हूँ इसलिए मैं यहाँ नहीं रुक पाया। नेक्स्ट टाइम इंशाल्लाह आपको अंदर से ये दिखाऊँगा। दोस्तों फलूदा और दही बल्ले खाने के बाद हमने बिल पे किया और उसके बाद हमने अपनी मोटरसाइकिल की तरफ कदम बढ़ाए और फिर नीचे वाला हैंडल लॉक ओपन किया और फिर ऊपर स्विच ओपन किया और फिर हमने सोचा अपनी शक्ल ही दिखा दें हम आपको कि हम कैसे उजड़े हुए हैं। अभी उजड़े हुए नहीं हैं, कुछ खाया पिया हमने, अभी कुछ सुकून है हमें। अब हमारा नेक्स्ट प्लान है कि मैं आपको दिखाऊँ F-16 फाइटर जेट जहाज। खाओ माँ कसम। यार कसम मैं नहीं खाने वाला, मैं आपको लाइव दिखाने वाला हूँ। जी हाँ, तो ये देखें आपके सामने, आपकी आंखों के सामने F-16 फाइटर जेट, जो कि हमारी फौज जंगों के लिए यूज़ करती है। पर हमारे पाकिस्तानी इतने टैलेंट हैं, उन्होंने ये हमारे लिए त्यारा सिर्फ और सिर्फ झूले खाने के लिए और नुमाइश के लिए बनाया है। तो ये बहुत ही आला किस्म का कारीगर है यार। इसको देख के हमारा दिल बहुत खुश हुआ, और के खुश ऐसे हुआ कि यार इतना अच्छा टैलेंट है हमारे पाकिस्तानियों में, इतना अच्छा टैलेंट है, मैं क्या बताऊँ आपको यार, जितनी ज़्यादा तारीफ करो कम है। एक हमारा दिल था कि हम अपना मोटरसाइकिल इधर रोकें और इस भाई से, जहाज़ बनाने वाले भाई से, हम इससे इंटरव्यू लें, पर हम थोड़ी जल्दी में थे, गर्मी बहुत थी यार, हमें घर पहुंचना था, थोड़ा सा सफ़र रह गया कि हमने बोला कि हम वापस आएंगे फिर इससे इंटरव्यू लेंगे, पर जल्दी से जल्दी हम पहले घर पहुँच जाएँ, फिर इंशाल्लाह इनसे इंटरव्यू होगा। तो नेक्स्ट वीडियो में यार हम पहले घर पहुँच जाएँ, फिर इनसे इंटरव्यू लेने वापस ज़रूर आएंगे कि ये लोग कैसे बनाते हैं और क्या कुछ यूज़ किया जाता है और कहाँ कहाँ से ये चीज़ें मंगवाते हैं और कैसे इनको आइडिया आता है कि ये चीज़ें बनाने का यार। तो दोस्तों अभी आपने F-16 फाइटर जेट जहाज़ देख लिया। अभी हम पहुंच चुके हैं मामू के घर। माशाल्लाह यार बहुत खूबसूरत कलर किया हुआ मामू ने। मामू के घर का कलर देखकर हमारा तो दिल ही खुश हो गया यार। इतनी खुशी मुझे सरप्राइज दिया हुआ है माम को, इतनी अच्छे कलरफुल 3 कलर किए हुए हैं मामू ने घर पे। माशाल्लाह बहुत ही खूबसूरत लग रहा है। देखें दोस्तों, ये है हमारा शादी वाला घर में कोई नज़र नहीं आ रहा यार, सारे लग रहा है कहीं काम गए हुए हैं। सब लोग मुझे लग रहा है दोस्तों बाहर गए हुए हैं। चलो मैं आप लोगों को दूल्हे का कमरा दिखाता हूँ।
रहा नहीं जाता, तड़प ही ऐसी है ना।
हाँ तो दोस्तों अभी हम पहुंच चुके हैं दूल्हे के कमरे में। ये हम दरवाज़ा खोल रहे हैं और आपको अंदर का माहौल दिखाते हैं। ये देखें माशाल्लाह, कलर करवाया है दूल्हे ने, अपनी मर्जी का कलर करवाया। ये देखें, ये दूल्हे का है कमरा। अभी ये बिल्कुल खाली है। मुझे पता है आप दिल ही दिल में मुझे गालियां दे रहे होंगे कि यार हमने तो सोचा था कि दूल्हे का कमरा माशाल्लाह सजावट से सजा होगा। यार अभी शादी शुरू नहीं हुई, अभी सिर्फ ये रूम बना हुआ है। अभी शादी को 2 दिन देर है। हम सामान लेने जाएंगे तब भी व्लॉग बनाएंगे, तब आपको दिखाएंगे कि ये जब सजावट में तब्दील हो जाएगा फिर आपको प्यारा लगेगा। ये है फर्स्ट कमरा दूल्हे का और दूसरा रूम आपको दिखाते हैं। दूल्हे के 2 रूम है, ये दूसरे रूम में हम आ चुके हैं दोस्तों। ये है दूसरा रूम, ये देखें माशाल्लाह। मैं सिर्फ आपको खाली कमरे दिखा रहा हूँ। जब इसमें दहेज का सामान आ जाएगा फिर आप देखना, फिर भी मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा, फिर आप देखना कि कितना प्यारा लगेगा। अभी ये खाली लग रहा है, ये खाली चीज़ें फिर तुम्हें पता है खोखली लगती हैं बस। तो मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट व्लॉग में दोस्तों, हमारे साथ जुड़िए रहेगा तो फिर मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा।